Hey guys, Captain Mike, Whiskey and Literature coming at you tonight with a bourbon battle, the 10-year-old version, specifically the Eagle Rare 10-year versus the Russell Reserve 10-year, both Kentucky straight bourbons. I was looking around my shelf for something that I hadn't opened. I had had the Russell Reserve probably a month and a half on my shelf, went ahead and opened it about a week ago, been taking some pours out of it, and I really like this bourbon. I've had a couple bottles of the Eagle Rare, and it is a fantastic whiskey. I thought this would be a pretty good matchup. I'm still relatively new to drinking whiskey even, and certainly describing the notes that I'm getting from the whiskeys. While I could think that these whiskeys are different, I had never drank them on the same evening, the same time together, and really been able to compare them. So if you're somewhat new to drinking whiskeys, I would suggest you do that. So there are times when I'm watching a movie or a show, or I'm reading a book, and I'll pour 3 or 4 pours of just small pours of different whiskeys that I think are somewhat similar. And when you drink them back to back, kind of like a flight, it is a flight, it really allows you to note the distinction between those whiskeys. So if you're somewhat new to drinking, as I am, I would suggest you try that on different nights. But let's talk about why these whiskeys are similar and then how are they distinct. Because on paper, at least the mash bills, the age, the proof, it's all very similar. They're both bottled at 90 proof. They're both 10 years old. The mash bill for the Eagle Rare is not known. We know it's mash bill number 1 from Buffalo Trace, speculated to be 75% corn, 10% rye, and 15% malted barley. We know Russell Reserve 10-year, this is Wild Turkey's bourbon mash bill, 75% corn, 13% rye, and 12% malted barley. So very similar if this is what it is, and just 3 points higher on the Russell Reserve over the Buffalo Trace. Price-wise, Eagle Rare has been all over the place in the past year and a half. The first bottle of Eagle Rare that I bought about a year and a half ago, was the first bottle I ever saw in a store, and I paid $160 for that bottle. A couple of months later, I bought 2 bottles at the same store for $80, and the last bottle of Eagle Rare that I purchased, I paid $60 for it. I do see it on the shelf still at some stores at inflated prices, but it pops up on the other stores regularly for $60, so I'm holding on Eagle Rare at $60. It's not always available, but it's enough that if you go in regularly enough, you'll find them in the stores for $60. The Russell Reserve, again, also 10-year, $32.99. I see this on the store. If I'm looking for it, almost every time when I go to the store, I look through there, and it's almost always there. Very available, and it is a great whiskey. I've been drinking a lot of the Wild Turkey Rare Breed and the 101, and I know that I like that flavor profile. I mean, I like most profiles that I'm drinking these days. I would say that I'm more of a high rye bourbon kind of a guy, or a rye whiskey guy, but man, you cannot go wrong with these whiskeys. And even at 13% rye, it can be in no way considered really a rye whiskey. I do get a little bit of the note on the rye on the finish, but that's really the only point that I can note any rye on the Russell Reserve 10-year, and that really just complements the bourbon flavors. The Eagle Rare, I feel like it departs slightly from maybe that classic bourbon wheelhouse, or that path of the classic bourbon, but it is very good. And the note on the Eagle Rare on the nose, man, I really like it. It's simple and subtle. It's almost an undefinable sweetness, kind of a sugary sweetness with a hint of citrus. Very good. That's always a crowd pleaser. I've got some friends and co-workers who go to tastings, and they'll try all different kinds of whiskeys, and for a lot of these guys, always their top pick is the Eagle Rare. The Russell Reserve, again, the more that classic note. If you like Wild Turkey, and you should, I think, Rare Breed it is one of the best values, I think, in whiskey, the Wild Turkey Rare Breed bourbon. And at $49.99, it can do just about anything you want. We get those same notes in the Russell Reserve 10-year, but I think those notes actually shine a little bit brighter in this whiskey simply because the proof is lower. The Rare Breed has up to 12-year-old whiskey in it, but also has some younger whiskey. I don't know what, and if you know, what are the proportions of those younger to the 12-year whiskeys in Rare Breed? I don't know, and I don't know if anyone does, but we know that this is at least 10-year. Again, that lower proof. A really nice caramel, some oak. Again, I got some oak on the Eagle Rare as well. They're both 10 years, so it's more of those classic notes. And I think in the Russell Reserve 10-year, what I've noticed is that palate really matches the nose. There's a strong caramel note in there, some vanilla, and a hint of oak. As it's finishing, again, I get that, just a bit of that rye on the beginning of the finish. Is that such a thing? But really all it does is complement those bourbon notes. I think it's a great mouthfeel. It's nice and viscous. I would definitely slot this. Do I think the Rare Breed is a better whiskey? For $17 more, honestly, I would probably buy the Rare Breed over this simply because I like the higher proof, the mouthfeel, and the flavor profile is all there, and it really shines in a cocktail, and it's not so hot that you can't drink it neat. But this is a very good whiskey. Happy to drink it anytime. The Rare Breed, on the other hand, I'm sorry, the Eagle Rare, again, it has that sugary sweetness on the nose. What a great whiskey is Eagle Rare. I really like the taste and the flavor. I get some, again, I think it's kind of a simple, just sweetness with a hint of oak, and it just finishes with more of those same notes. Mouthfeel about the same as the Russell's Reserve. Very good whiskeys. If you had to pin me down right now and tell me to choose one of these whiskeys over the other, it's a very difficult, and it might be a different answer next week, but as of right now, I would actually pick the Eagle Rare, simply because I have been drinking this flavor profile for the past few weeks. I've been hitting the Rare Breed and the 101, and I've been having this for the past few nights, and I really, don't mistake me, I really like this whiskey. But simply the Eagle Rare, I've not been having much of that in the past couple of months. And so it's something a little bit distinct and different from those classic bourbon notes that I've been having recently. So as of right now, tonight, I would rather have a pour of the Eagle Rare, simply because it's a little different. It's not better, it's just distinct. But really, guys, any one of your friends who comes over to your house, they would be happy to have a pour of either one of these whiskeys. My friends too, if I had any to come over to my house, would be happy to have any one of these whiskeys. But it is what it is, my friends. If you don't have these whiskeys at your house, I think you should go pick them up. Look for the Russell Reserve 13-year review coming up soon. And right now, I hope you are reading something good and drinking something great. Turn the pages, my friends, and stay thirsty.